All right. So, welcome everyone. That was such a wonderful introduction from Lisa. And again, thank you to the Friends of the Library. That means so much. And all of you for continuing to show up. We appreciate it. So this evening we are doing, I feel like this is a rather easier watercolor than some of the past that we've done. This is the Colors of the Fall series, as Lisa said. And if you, saw today, I feel like the colors are bursting this week. And I know I'm very much into fall. And Our area, the Pennsylvania area, is at its peak this week through this week and a little bit of next week. So you'll see the colors really vibrant. So we're doing an autumn wreath watercolor painting. So I'm going to show you how I do mine, and you are always welcome to add more things in it. You can add acorns, you can add more leaves, more mushrooms, whatever you like. But we're going to start off, and it's going to be sort of this half circle wreath. And I do it first in pencil. So you will need a pencil with an eraser. This is on 9 by 12 watercolor, but we are holding it 12 by 9, or I'm sorry, yeah, let's see, landscape mode, not portrait mode. So turning it around in case you're not sure of that. So you're going to turn it around this way. And we're going to get started. So let me just add some more people on. Welcome, everyone. We are using basic watercolors here. My set is pretty worn. You want to make sure you've got a small cup of water here. And I like to use two paintbrushes, but it doesn't call for that. You can just use the paintbrush that came with your set if you picked up the kit. But the two paintbrushes I like to use, one is a little bit thicker of a round brush, and this is a number 6. And then this one came with the kit, and it's a little thinner, as you can see. Oh, we got somebody else coming on. Okay. So anyway, welcome everyone. We are going to get started. So we're going to start drawing our watercolor leaves, or our watercolor autumn wreath, not leaf. So we're going to start off first with sort of a half circle. And I'll be drawing darker so you can see it on Zoom. But just as a reminder, all of your marks should be very light, just enough so that you can see those, because we do erase those at the end. Unless you're welcome to keep some of the pencil marks. Some people like to keep the pencil marks kind of showing through the paint, and that's okay too. But you do want to do it sort of light. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a half circle. So we're going to start off at the top right of our page, a little bit down from there, obviously. And we're going to create kind of like a C shape. So actually, let me go in just a little bit more to the left of the top right corner. So maybe about right here. And again, I'm doing this a lot darker so you can see. And we're going to come down towards the bottom of our page, but not so much that we hit the bottom of the page, because this is just the line on which we're going to create the basis of the leaves and the mushrooms. Let me make sure that's okay. So beautiful, John Paul. You got it. Awesome. Yes. I feel like I should be Cookie Monster on Sesame Street. Like, today we're learning the letter C. Okay, so now that we have that, we're actually going to start down below right here, and we're going to draw our mushrooms first, and then everything is going to be based around those mushrooms. So we're going to start kind of in the bottom left corner here of our C. And we're going to start first with the stem. So this mushroom is going to be taller than the mushroom on the right. So we start off with our stem. And what I like to do is start off with the basic shape, but then at the top, just add a little bit of sort of a bump, because the way mushrooms are on the exterior, they've got layers. And so what you see me now drawing is sort of the bunched layers. Oh, we have somebody else coming on in. And once you have that drawn, you're going to start to draw the shape of the cap, or underneath the cap of your mushroom. So it's going to look a little something.
Okay. We'll start
like
watching
that.
the film, as I said, the first section, and then stop.
Welcome. I just put you on mute just because we're recording, but welcome. We're happy you're here, and we are just starting to draw before we watercolor. Welcome, everyone. I'm just putting some of those on mute that just entered, just because we are recording, but it's so nice to have you. We are starting with our C shape of our autumn wreath watercolor, and we've now gone down to the bottom left and started drawing our first mushroom. So we're drawing the cap part underneath the cap, and now we're going to finish up the cap here. So going right underneath and drawing our cap shape like so. And then we're going to go right next to it, but a little bit down past our C shape. So let me make this a little darker so you can see. So here's what we're looking at here. Going past a little bit. And I don't put anything at the bottom here because there's going to be grass there, and we're not going to be drawing that in. We're going to be painting that in. And this cap is turned more towards us so that you basically see the cap and not underneath. Let me fix this a little bit. I feel like I have to kind of move the cap a little more towards the mushroom on the left. So here is the bottom of that mushroom cap. And then we've got sort of a roundish triangle for the tip of it. Let me make this just a little bit smaller here so that it's kind of, your cap should sort of be obviously in the middle on top of your stem. Okay, so now that we have that, and also if anyone has any questions, you can put those in the chat, or if I'm going too fast or whatever, you can put that in the chat. Now we've got our last mushroom here. It's a very thin mushroom that's coming underneath this one. I mean, it's in the back, but you see part of it. So basically, you're going to see a very thin part coming up right here. And then I'm going to shorten my other mushroom just a little bit so that you will see basically the cap again. And actually, I'm going to move over the part that is in the ground, or would be in the ground. I had my original a little bit closer, but if yours doesn't make it that way, that's okay too. Or you can just erase the other parts. I'm just going to fix my mushroom cap shape. And so now we have our basic mushrooms. And now we're going to start going from there. So you're probably thinking, well, there's all this detail on the mushrooms and underneath. That will be when we use our paints. Beautiful, John Paul. Yes. Yes, you got it. That looks terrific. I can't wait to see these. Like, there's a lot of room for play on these. So play away, meaning if you want to add different colors, and I'll have suggestions of colors that you can add. All right, so we're now going to go left. We're going to go up and left, and then we'll finish off going at the bottom with our drawing. Okay, so as I mentioned, there is all grass over here. We're not going to draw that in. We're going to be using our watercolor for that. So we're going to move up a little bit here. And we do have some other grassy parts over here, meaning I'm just going to show you back to the other one. We're not going to be drawing those either because we're going to be doing those freehand. But we are going to draw this little sort of wishy flower right here. So coming back down to our drawing here, center my drawing, make sure you can all see. Coming back down here, so we imagine our grass is around here, so we're going to go upward. And right over here, we're going to draw our wishy. So basically drawing the stem. For now, I'm just going to draw it as a curved line. And then in the middle, going to draw what looks like kind of a star, because that's in the middle. And at the end of each star, you're kind of going to draw like little shapes. I'm going to show this up close so you can see. So if you're familiar with the wishies, and then it's got all the very light, feathery, I don't know what you call it. It's almost like cottony. We're going to be painting that, but we're just going to be drawing the part that's in the middle of the wishy. I call it a wishy. I'm not really sure what the technical term is, but I'm going to call it a wishy. But if anybody knows, you can put that in the chat. All right, so we're going to continue upwards now. We've got our wishy, and now we're going to go inside toward our mushroom, and we're going to start with our leaves. So we're going to start with the stem, and basically we're going to make it go around like so and bend it just a little bit. And that's where we're going to start to add our leaves. Now our leaves are big. Oh, thank you, Joan. Elium. I think I've heard that before. Beautiful. I love that. So I like to go really big with my leaves. So we are now going to do leaf shapes. And as you can see, some can be a little thicker, some can be a little pointier and thinner. It's okay. And so we're now going to create those leaf shapes, kind of traveling around on top of our C shape, because like I said, we're going to be erasing that later. And then you can start to kind of extend, keep extending the stem in the middle as we're going forward and going towards our C shape. Now at this point, if you like, I like to then start to erase inside the leaves or wherever our line for the C is made, because we're going to basically be doing that anyway before we start using the watercolor. So let's continue around. And what you want to do is start filling out leaves on either side of your stem here. So you see I've added one here, but now one needs to go over here. And this is where for your drawing, you may find that maybe you need more leaves than I do, or smaller ones. Like this one over here is a little bit bigger. And then in between, we have some berries. And so this line is for the berries. And you can start to make little stems for the berries and then add those berries on. And they're basically just going to be circles. So adding those on to the end of your stems. Or I guess these are really twig, the twigs that they're on. And so you might decide to also add some close to your twig. And that's how we're going to create the berries, these larger leaves, and then we've got some small green leaves as we're going around. So again, there's a lot of room for play for this. Okay, so we're going to keep going here because we want to complete, keep adding some of this stuff. The other thing too is after you draw all of this out, if you find as you start painting it that you want to add some more on the outside or the inside, you have the freedom to do that as well. Okay, so going onward here, I want another leaf here as it's going towards the circle. And as we're going upward here, there are some, I kind of made up a lot of these shapes. So I kind of think of this as almost like some wheat, maybe like, wheat that is kind of coming off. And basically the wheat, I was kind of shaping it like this, even though maybe like a wheat flour. I don't know if that really exists. Probably not. But basically, so maybe it's in between wheat and also a flour. So it's kind of like squiggly, but it's got little stems. And again, we're just kind of making that shape for now, but it will be lightly erased as we start to paint. And then we also want to now start to add some small green leaves. So we do the same thing where we start sort of with the middle stem, and then we start to branch off into these small twig-like shapes so that we can start to add the leaves. And again, I'm just being very aware of the C shape as we're going around. So I usually attach these kind of in the middle of where the stem or twig is. And I sometimes add more, like right now, I want to add one here because I think it will look good. And we're just going to keep going around and filling out the greenery here. Yeah, I'll add one short one here. I'm going to start to go a little closer too. I think you can all benefit from me going closer. So now you can really see that where each of them are. And then from that, I'm going to continue to erase around where the C shape is. And the reason is because I'm going to make one of the other parts that we're going to do next a little bit sort of going inward rather than outward like the C shape. And then it's going to come back around because then we're going to create more of those long leaves. And so this is the middle, right? So we're continuing on here. Now this is the middle of the next part where we're now going to start branching off, continuing with our bigger leaves here. So I like to extend this one and make that leaf kind of on the edge. And then again, adding more of those shaped leaves. To fill that out. And then going back and just lightening up sort of that middle area that the leaves are attached to. And then the last part in this area is going to be some of those small green leaves. So I make another kind of twig-like shape with smaller leaves attached, like so. And see, we're starting to fill out that C shape. And then we're finally going to go down below over here and finish up our drawing. So now I'd like to take your attention down to this area right where our mushrooms are. And we're going to draw another one of those wishies right here, but we're just going to kind of put it probably about right here. So sort of near this thinner mushroom, and we're just drawing the center. So again, we've got our center with our lines on the edge there. So something like that. And we're going to now continue onward here. And then we've got some small green leaves again. So right around here, we're going to just have sort of a curve. This curve is going upward above where our C shape is. And we're going to start to make some more twigs for our small green leaves. And one right here. Let's see. Maybe one more over here. And then we're going to start with our big leaves again, kind of going around. So there's a kind of a lot going on in this whole area, but I'll break it down for you. And this is where if you want to add more berries, more of my little fake wheat flowers, or more big leaves, or acorns, this is where you can add all of that. Okay, so we're going to now come back down to the C shape right here on that line. And we're going to start creating the shape or the stem area for now the big leaves that are going to start coming around. So again, you can kind of fashion some of this as it's going around. And for now, we're going to stick with that shape kind of going off of the C. Oh, wow. John Paul, that looks amazing. Beautiful. Great work. I can't wait to see all of these. These are all going to look so different. Very fun. Okay, so I've started to draw the little twigs coming off, and now I'm going to attach bigger leaves to them. The other thing, it's okay if your leaves kind of run into each other. That didn't happen on my original, but it can happen. It can happen on this one, it can happen on yours. And then I like to sort of also add some a little bit down below the C shape. So as you can see, here's that original C shape. I want to start adding some down here towards the bottom of the page. And I'm even adding some behind these two, going towards, kind of filling out this area so that it looks a little more balanced, kind of like up here, we've got some coming up. So down here, we should have some coming out so that it looks more balanced. That's what you're kind of going for. If it looks a little too off center or it needs something, that's where you can add some more leaves. Okay, continuing on here. Gonna add another leaf. Oh, let me make sure. I think I just saw something in the chat. Oh, we're good. Okay. And so now I'm just adding more leaves, and we're now going to start also adding in some berries. And also, so in between some of these leaves, this is where I like to, again, add in some more of those sort of wheat, I call them the wheat flowers. So if you can kind of fit those in between some of the leaves that you've started to draw, you can do that now. And I kind of do it towards the bottom lower section because we then start adding some berries in on either side of this section. Just going to give everybody a few seconds catch up. I just drew this line here and this line here, and basically going to start with the berries on this line. So I extend that line a bit and then start to add some offshoots for berries. And then I start to add the circles for the berries. And then I also do some, maybe some in between with some little offshoots like so. Yeah, I'll add one more over here. And we're going to keep going here for our final area. But we're going to start to extend this to the right side of our page here just a little bit. So what I mean is around this area. So right over here, kind of going to make a funny line like that. One more here. And we're going to start drawing offshoots of these lines because we've got some yellow flowers happening. They're going to be attached to some of these, and also some small leaves. This line in particular is going to be some of the small green leaves. So you're going to start extending those lines and adding little leaves. And again, you can add some that are filling up a little bit down towards here. And you can leave some of these lines blank. But over here, or somewhere over here, you want to add some berries. I think I'm going to add my berries right down here. And so again, you're going to add some smaller offshoots of twigs. And you're going to add some berries. And just take your time and have fun with it. We're rounding out our last area here of the drawing part of this. And now we just want to start to add some more offshoots of lines coming from this sort of strange bumpy line here. And this is where we add our final big leaves. So again, you can start adding some little offshoots from these areas. I like to add about 3 or 4 of the big leaves. I'm going to add one right behind here. And then we have just some little green leaves coming off right near them. Oops, sorry. Just realized I was kind of going off the page here. Let me lift my camera up so you can see that better. And look at that. We have something that looks difficult. We've taken some time on it, but we're ready to paint, except right now, we now just want to make sure that everything is lighter. So I like to go back and just lighten everything up with my eraser. Wow, John Paul, that looks incredible. Love it, love it, love it. Can't wait to see paint on it. So what I'm doing now is just lightening up all of my lines. I'm using a kneaded eraser, but you don't have to use this kind of eraser. You can obviously use the one that's on the back of your pencil. And what I'm doing is just lightly going over, almost as if I'm erasing, but not really. I'm going very lightly erasing so that I'm lightening up the lines. As you can see, the lines up here on my drawing have gotten lighter. You can barely see them. And again, if yours are darker and you don't want them darker, this is what you can do. All right. And then obviously you want to make sure to wipe off all of your eraser bits here. And we want to start introducing our watercolor. And what we're going to start with first are our mushrooms. So our mushrooms are a combination of orange, sort of a very light orange, and brown for basically the stem area. So we're going to be going into the stem area first, and I'm going to be showing you the mixing of my colors by doing this. So I'm going to put this paper towel here. I use if you have Crayola or you have something else, you kind of want to have some sort of mixing tray. You can also use like an old dish or something. I love it. Oh my gosh, John Paul, I just saw your shirt that says, "This is my costume." I love it. That's great. Ah, I love this time of year. Okay, so you can see that I have pre-mixed some other things. I was doing another watercolor today. I'm working on the new programs for January through August. So I was using some of my watercolors, which those will be out to the libraries by the end of November. Just letting Lisa know. So here we go with doing some mixing. We've got a little bit of orange here. So I'm going to actually mix it. I'm going to wash this part off so that it's clean and so that you can see what I'm mixing. So we're going to add some yellow, some orange, and a little bit of brown. So again, that was some yellow, orange, little bit of brown, and we're actually going to add a little bit of green. And you're kind of going to get this sort of muddy color like this. And it's kind of a greenish. Yours may be a little more yellow. That's okay. So we're going to go back and add a little bit of orange a bit, but you want this to be very watered down. We're going to go very light at first with this color. And basically, you're going to go on the left side inside your mushroom like so. And let me go a little closer here and move my watercolors off. So you're going to go on the left side. John Paul, this was a mixture of yellow, and I put it in like right here. And then I took orange, mixed that. So yellow, orange, brown, and green. And I made this color. So basically what I do is I wet my brush and I dab that color and put it in this section. And I went, yeah. Oh, you have a nice one. You know what, John Paul, you may find that color. So it would be more of like a greenish, kind of like a greenish brown, or you could use brown, very light. And for those of you that have different colors other than a basic set, you want to look for more of like a kind of a light brownish color. And you're going to add that to the left side of the line of your mushrooms. So with both of those mushrooms, you're just going to add a little bit, and you're going to do it also to the long one that's next to it. So at first it's going to be a line of that color. And we're going to go back after it's dried just a little bit. But this is our first layer. And from this color, we're going to add orange when you are done with that. So basically, that color you just mixed, you can add orange into it, and it's going to look a little less green. Or if you're using brown, it's going to look more orangey brown. And that's kind of what you want. And then we're going to go around to each of our big leaves, and that's going to be our first layer. So I'll say that again. That color we just mixed, if you have a basic watercolor set, it's 4 colors: yellow, orange, and green, and a little bit of brown. And then if not, if you have like a brownish color, like a light brownish color, you're going to use that. And then you're going to mix a little bit of orange in it. And that's going to be the first quick color for these leaves. And you want it to be very watery. So basically a really light color in the shape of those leaves. So see, I'm going quickly filling in that shape. Let me just move my lighting a little bit. There we go. So now what we're doing is going very lightly over our big leaves. So not the green ones. Let me move this, but your bigger leaves. So again, we're doing this color and going on top of all of our bigger leaves. Okay. So just follow it around and pick out where you've drawn all of your bigger leaves. The other thing too right now is if you want, if you needed to add more leaves, you could do that at this point too, but you might want to wait till the end to see how your design looks. Oh, I have another bigger leaf right down here. I was sort of missing. So basically you should have sort of this brownish kind of look to your leaves, very lightly. And when you're finished that, you're going to rinse your brush because we're going to add the first layer to our mushroom caps. So everything with watercolor is layers. Sometimes waiting for those layers to dry first so that we can add another layer on. And that's what we are doing right now. So when you're finished with adding that very kind of base color, you're now going to go into your red and your orange. And this is going to be for the caps of our mushrooms. So let me clear off a color here in my, we're going to mix another color. And this is just going to be reddish orange, of which we're going to add a little bit of brown eventually, but not right now. So clear off a spot on your, or clear off an area near your mixing tray. I have to kind of wipe mine off because I didn't do that before. So I'm just grabbing a paper towel to wipe it off after I wet it. So I can now remix that color. So again, we're looking for red and orange. And again, this is going to be very watery. So I'm putting orange down here first, adding a little bit of red. If your colors are a little bit too vibrant at this point, you can also add some brown a little bit. So we're going to do the same with our mushroom, but we're going to start on the left side of our mushroom. On each side of these two mushrooms, we're going to kind of fill in the mushroom just partially. So you can see that I've left this bottom part of the mushroom with the white of the paper. And here I've left the bottom part of the paper a little bit as well. We're still going to go back and add more, but for now, that's our first layer. And then what we're going to do now that we have that orangey red on our brush, we're actually going to add more red to that color. So again, what I just did was, still having that color on my brush, I added some red. And now you're going to add some purple. And this is going to be on top of the original color that we added for some of the big leaves, but not all of them. So again, this is red and purple. So you're kind of going to get something that looks a little bit more of a darker red, or like a wine color. Now, if you have that color already, you're looking for more of a dark red, and then you're going to go up at the top and start to paint over just a little bit on top of the other color you had. But what I like to do is add a little more dark of the color we're using, kind of where the leaves meet the stem area. So like right here, I go back and I add some strokes of color. Like sometimes I go 1, 2, 3, and I leave that color to kind of go into the leaf just a little bit. And we're going to do that also on the right side as well with these leaves. So I'm doing 3 strokes, starting at the edge of the leaf where it meets with the twig areas. And I'm adding that reddish color on there. Sometimes I like to go back and outline the red leaves. So basically I just take my brush and treat it like a pencil and just go back and define the outside of them. So I'm doing that now. And you're going to keep this color on your brush because we're now going to go back into our mushroom caps. So again, this is that kind of wine color we made. And you're going to go back. Oh my gosh, beautiful, John Paul. Nice. Nicely done, sir. Love it. So we're going to go back on our mushroom here, the big one, and start to kind of outline a little at the bottom, and then add some of this red color on top. That's on the big one. We're also going to add it to the little one, kind of all over. Yes, the reddish purple, John Paul. Yep. So you're going to get that color that you just used for the red leaves. You're going to add that to the left side of each of these 2 mushrooms. So if you see a darker color here, that's my reddish purple. So you're going to add that. And you're still going to keep that color on your brush. So I know right now our mushrooms look really strange because they've got these colors that are not mixed in yet, but we're going to go back with water and blend those a little bit. But we're letting those dry just a little bit. So once you've done that to those 2 mushroom areas, you're still going to keep that color on your brush. We're going to use that color one more time for the berries. So here's that wine color, but now you're going to add some black to it, just a little bit. Just a little bit of black, and you're going to get a darker wine color. So again, I just tipped in with my black, mixing it around. And you're now going to apply that really tiny to your berries. So again, this color was the red color that we had, but we just add a tinge of black, just a little bit. And now we're going to dot our berries. And what you're going to do with the berries is I literally kind of like dot it on in the circular area that we drew of the berry. So there's my one section over there. Now I'm going to complete the rest. You can also add, or I should say leave, like a white dot, which is the white of the paper, by kind of going around the berries with your brush, like you're tracing them, but you're dotting it, and you're kind of leaving the little round circle, the white of the paper. I'm just going to show that up close just so you can see. So see what I've done? It's almost like I'm dotting around with my paintbrush, a little bit of the color, but I'm leaving the center, the white of the paper. On each one. This is the berries. Let me see, any more berries around? I felt like I put more, but nope, I did not. Oh, John Paul, that looks awesome. Nice. Yes, that is what I'm talking about. Yep, so dot those berries. And then you're going to rinse your brush, but you're going to leave that water on there. I'm just going to adjust my light a minute because it's showing the shadow of my watercolor cup. I think that's better for you. Okay, so now what you're going to do is, like I said, you're going to rinse out your brush, and you're going to grab a little bit of water with your brush. So basically, we're going to go back to the mushrooms. So I just dipped in the tip of my brush in the water. You're going to go back to your mushroom caps, and you're going to start to blend in the section of the white of the paper. You're going to take the color, that red color, and that sort of orangey color, and you're now going to blend everything by just smoothing it out and bringing it into the white of the paper. So it's almost like you're using, in pencil, it's almost like, you're using shading. And you're going to do the same thing on this other one, this other mushroom below. And so now you're going to have a lighter part underneath, and same here. And so that's how you blend that area. And then once you're done that, you're going to do the same. Oh, yes, John Paul, absolutely. You got it. Beautiful. Nice work. We're going to do the same now for underneath the mushrooms on the stems. So you're going to, rinse your brush again in your water, and then you're just going to dip it back in your water so that it's clean. And then you're going to go along the right side of the line of color you made, and you're going to blend it into the stem on both mushrooms. So again, we're blending in that color You're kind of fading it, and we'll go back and we're going to add some brown to that. But for now, you're going to fade out that color, and then you're finally going to go underneath the mushroom, the big one, and you're just going to add a little bit of water underneath the big mushroom too. So again, you just added just a little bit of water after you finished blending in the stem parts of your mushroom. Then you just go kind of underneath the mushroom cap of the big one and just add a little bit of water underneath there. We're going to come back to that. I'm just blending out my mushroom cap a little better. There we go. And you're going to let that dry, and you're now going to go into your yellow. So you're going to rinse out your brush, and let me move my paint thing here. You're going to grab some yellow, and you're going to mix it with some brown. So you're going to kind of get this brownish yellow. Now, again, if you have another set of watercolors that you already have that color, you want something that's a little bit of a deeper yellow. And we're going to be using this in a few different places. So that deep yellow is going to be at first on the top of the mushroom, the smaller mushroom. That one right here. We're also going to add it to our wishy right on top in sort of a kind of circular, a little bit more of a circular area. So I just went like this. We're going to add it to the wishy areas on top of what we drew. So it's kind of going to be like a wild sort of circle, you know, an uneven circle, kind of going like that. And we're still going to use this color because we're going to add some golden color to some of the other leaves that we didn't do. We're also going to add it a bit to our lines that are connecting our leaves with that color. So we're going to come back into our mushroom and go back on the right side or left side, sorry, on the left side. Remember how we did that line? And then just add a little bit across the mushroom with like a few lines. So what I did was I went down the line on the left side, and then I took my brush and kind of added lines or strokes across. Just going to show that up close like that. And then I'm going to add some of that color to some of the bigger leaves. Again, closer to the edge of where the leaf is connected to the vine. I keep calling it a vine or it's not really the stem, kind of like the vine. So now I'm going back and just adding a little bit darker lines right where it's connected. Like so. And now we're going to use this one more time for some of those little flowers. The yellow, what I call the wheat flowers. You're going to add those. Oh, this color is a darkened yellow. So it's yellow and brown mixed. So it's kind of like a golden yellow. So we're adding that to some of these, the wheat flowers. And what I like to do is I also like to start to just add some little dabs of yellow, kind of in areas where I didn't really draw anything. So for instance, I'm kind of doing that in this section here and making almost like little yellow dabs of flowers in between some of the leaves. And when you're ready, you're also going to take that yellow. Yep. Oh, not on the little leaves yet, because we're going to do green on those. This section are the ones that we drew that look like flowers, John Paul. So you're going to add it to those. Unless you didn't draw those, then you can just. Oh, you did it. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, you did that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to outline with that same color along all the stems with this kind of yellowed color, including you're going to do the green leaves, but we haven't done those leaves yet. So right now, after you do the smaller wheat colored leaves, you're now taking this color and you're now outlining all of the twig areas so that it all kind of looks more uniform. So just going on top and just kind of tracing over your lines. You may still have the pencil lines that you can see. So we're tracing over those areas. So just take your time, trace over those areas as we are heading into our final moments with this painting. I also like to then take this color and finally go into the small mushroom here, the long, thin mushroom stem here. I like to go into that as well with this color. Oops, I forgot my little berries over there. And after that, you're going to get into just some vibrant yellow. So basically, after completing those lines with that golden yellow, you're going to just dip into some yellow. And again, you're going to go over those leaves that you have the golden color on, and now you're going to add yellow to those. So everything that you have, you did that golden color on, including sort of the allium or wishies. You're going to add a little bit of the yellow on. So again, this is just regular yellow. So we're just adding one more kind of layer to that yellow. And then you're going to rinse your brush. We're going to get into our green finally. So now we're going to get into our green. So this should be like a grass green, like a nice kind of vibrant green. We're going to do that one first. And we add a few more darker, we add a little bit of black to that eventually, but not yet. So this is our regular green, vibrant green. I'm using Crayola, so I'm just using it straight from the palette here. And we're going to start over to our left, the left side here. And first we're going to draw our grasses. So we're going to start and make very light grass strokes right underneath and alongside our mushroom and on top, but at the base of the mushroom. So see, I'm now going in, and it's less watery and more paint. So you can start to make really light, small strokes going that way. And I'm going to really zero in here so you can see. And you're going to do that across the mushrooms here, all 3 mushrooms. So you're now adding your grass. And you can add little pieces of grass going in an opposite direction. And then for those sort of little flyaway grass areas, you're going to kind of go in one direction and then go on top of it like so. So what I'm talking about are these sort of green leafy grass parts, but they're really leaves. They're like that. And you're going to add a few of those. I added 2. Like that. And you're going to add 3 or so on the other side. So let me lift up my camera here. And so you're going to come around, the outer left side of your design, and you're going to add 3 green leaves. And these are just strokes of green connected by a center. Here's one more up here. Like so. And then you're finally going to get into the other green leaves, that the smaller ones that we haven't touched yet, but this is where you're going to add a little bit of black into your green. So here's my green. I'm going to go into my black, mix it in with my green, and you're going to get a darker shade of green. Now, maybe you already have a darker green and you don't need to do that. But if you don't, you just go into your black, mix it in your green, and you're going to get more of a darker green. And you're now going to paint the rest of your leaves, the small leaves, green. So just be careful, take your time. And you're now going to outline each of those small leaves with your green. So we've left a few here. And now you're going to fill those in. And this is also where, if you want to add any, just by painting them in, you can do that. I'm doing a few here. And we've got one more thing to do. And that is underneath our mushroom cap here. We want to grab our black under our mushroom cap. And what I mean is coming underneath the mushroom cap where your stem starts, and you're going to use black, and you're going to trace kind of around where the mushroom cap, or I'm sorry, the mushroom stem is. And I'm going to go really close so you can see. So right there, and then you're going to very lightly create lines coming from there and then going outward toward the mushroom cap, because this is underneath the mushroom. Very light lines. And some are shorter. And when you're done that, you can add little dotted areas on your mushrooms like this. And you can do the same on the little one, but a little closer. You're also going to take that black. You're going to very lightly now go on top of the stem of the mushroom. And you're going to add some very thin lines on the stem. Like so, for that detail. And we've got one other spot where we're going to do that. And it's basically, you're going to redraw with your paint on the wishy section, the line, the star shape in the middle. You're going to redraw that with your black. Now, if it's still too wet, you might want to wait. One of mine is a little bit wet, and I'm gonna try. Let me lift up here. And one last step of just adding a little bit of orange now to the final parts of the leaves that we colored yellow and the darkish yellow. You're going to add a little bit of orange on the tips, and even if you want on top of the color that you already have, but not going over the entire leaf. So basically what you can see what I'm doing is I'm kind of going now on the tips instead of closer to the edge on some, and some I am, but I'm just adding some orange on top of those leaves and let that dry on its own. Sometimes I like to go back and just add a little bit on top of the mushrooms too. But I am so curious to see now what yours looks like. I'm going to stop the recording.